Hello everyone, it's your local Trash Panda Slayer here. Nostalgia is a feeling that I've consistently had for at least 15 years, mostly in regards to video games. But very recently, I've been feeling nostalgia for a different kind of medium, the internet. And no, I'm not talking about 4 or 5 social media platforms we're talking about these days. I'm talking about the old days of the internet. The days before short-form brain rot, mass-scale censorship, and algorithms took over. Back when it was a wild west where people posted what they wanted to just out of sheer passion and not for money. This is a period commonly referred to as the golden age of the internet, and lasted some time between the early 2000s before ending sometime between 2012 or 2016. As a kid during the 2000s, I got to see some glimpses of the old internet. My older sibling liked playing Flash games or watching Flash animations, and I also had a few classmates who were fans of YouTube poop, and so I was introduced to YTP from them, along with other early YouTube stuff such as the Rickroll. I only started to properly use the internet during the tail end years of what is generally considered the golden age, between 2010 to 2012. Whether it was me using my aunt's laptop in 2010 and 2011, or using my first ever personal laptop that I got for Christmas in 2011. I was a preteen during this era, and was exposed to a lot of wonderful things, such as animations, Flash games, YouTube poops, game reviews, all that good stuff. And in my personal opinion, 2012 was the last true year of the golden age of the internet. The internet was a mainstream thing that most people had, but this was right before a lot of the things we see in the current age of the internet took off. So it hits that sweet spot between modernity and antiquity. YouTube especially was at its creative peak at this time. Literally every style of YouTube video was on fire at this point. It truly was a marketplace of ideas ranging from some of the best YouTube poops, Let's Players of all varieties, comedy skits, you name it. There is a strong argument to be made that 2012 was the absolute peak of YouTube. But as we all know, once you reach the peak, there's nowhere else to go but down. By 2013, things were already starting to slowly fall apart. There was the Google Plus controversy, which most people have memory hold by now. But basically, it required you to have a Google Plus account in order to leave a comment on YouTube, if I recall correctly. I remember it as one of the first big out-of-touch decisions that angered literally everyone on YouTube. Something that would only continue in the years to come. There was also the release of Vine. I'm gonna be upfront and honest here, and I know a lot of people are not gonna like what I'm gonna say, but I have never liked Vine. It is the origin point of modern short-form brain rot, and I genuinely think internet culture would be much better off had it not been invented. Y'all hate that god-awful 6'7" meme, right? Well, in 2015, there was the 21 meme. And if Vine hadn't given us the concept of short-form videos in the first place, TikTok would not exist either. In short, Vine farted so that TikTok could shit. 2013 to 2016 was an alright time for the internet, I guess, but it's definitely when a lot of problems we see now started rearing their ugly head, and the ubiquity of smartphones and social media platforms like Twitter were really starting to have a detrimental effect on the internet and society as a whole. By this point, the internet was becoming a conglomeration of just a few social media platforms, with niche forums dying out in favor of Reddit, and online animation seeing a decline in popularity as Newgrounds, which was an early hub for online content, faded from mainstream relevance. Getting past the golden age of the internet, even past the bronze age of the internet, we have the dark age of the internet, which we are currently in. I'd say that this era started back in 2017. This year is when we saw the rise of YouTube Kids channels with the whole ElsaGate controversy. It's when golden age YouTube stars such as PewDiePie got overtaken by corporate conglomerations like T-Series and soulless clickbait. This era was also when censorship started devouring everything in its path, with the first adpocalypse. It became harder and harder for content creators and anyone who was edgy or anti-establishment to have any success or even speak their mind, until it eventually reached the point where we can't even say words that aren't even swear words. The term unalived has gained much ire and is one of the most notable examples of this form of Orwellian newspeak. Nowadays, I'm seeing people who censor words like death unironically. I can't even say the name of my favorite bands without getting censored. That's just ridiculous. As for other social media platforms, 2018 to 2022 was peak Twitter brain rot, when the site was at its absolute biggest and most influential, and it was very notorious for toxicity and crybullying, and that seemed to affect the greater whole of the internet. Content creators were afraid of getting major pushback due to also having a major presence on Twitter, and so everyone started adopting safer and more normie-friendly opinions. Now, 2020 and everything that went down then was obviously the worst time for internet culture. As much as we'd like to forget about the whole lockdown era, that pretty much was a coup for everything already bad about the internet to become multiple dozens of times worse, since now everyone was glued to their phone browsing Twitter 12 hours a day. As of current day, even as the pendulum has swung against the culture of the pandemic era, we still see major after effects of it to this very day. Censorship is still bad, brain rot continues to be a major thing despite more people rightfully complaining about it, the rise of AI-generated content has proven especially horrible, and social media continues to be toxic on the whole. It's for this reason a lot of people are abandoning social media, or at least limiting their social media usage. We are all fatigued from the years of cultural deterioration we've seen since, at the very least, the late 2010s. It's just crazy to me how the early 2010s was a great time for the internet for the most part, yet everything afterwards has just been going downhill. This is why people say that the 2000s was the greatest decade for the internet. It was the most free and innovative time, when corporations didn't have as much control, there was little if any censorship, and people made things for fun and not money. So, I've been talking about how much the internet has gone downhill over the last decade, so to brighten things up, I'd like to summarize the reasons why I love the old internet. One of the reasons I like this era so much is due to the freedom it gave creators and the innovation that came from it. During the 2000s, we had Flash animations, people making their own short cartoons and animated parodies on a shoestring budget just for the fun of it. While oftentimes crude, they were entirely self-aware and played up the immaturity to their strength. YouTube Poop pushed the boundaries of video editing and absurdist humor. Don't get me wrong, the bad poops, the Spadiner ones, those have aged like milk. But the best YTPs of this era I still put on frequently just to have a good laugh. YouTube during its glory days let people truly broadcast themselves, some of which created their own shows without the puppet strings of media controlling them. AVGN and JonTron, for example. And this was back when web design was actually presentable, since this era falls directly in the Frutiger Arrow age of aesthetics, before everything became more flat and white than yo mama's ass. Ever since around 2013, 2014, flat design and corporate Memphis has taken over everything and sucked the soul out of most media, the internet included. Censorship is minimal in the 2000s, so there was much more diversity of thought and far less fear of being taken down. This allowed everyone to experiment with their content and just do what they wanted to. Hence why older content has so much soul, even if it is in crusty 240p. You can tell something like 2000's AVGN or Gmod Idiot Box were made out of passion and love, and not for the almighty dollar. Now, I won't lie, there have been many quality of life changes that we did see in the 2010s, and that allowed creators to create longer and more ambitious videos. But this, and the changing attitudes of the era, also led to the rise of very bloated essays, which oftentimes feature heavy-handed postmodernist overtones, something I've grown sick of in recent memory. At the end of the day, a 20-minute review without any filler is more often than not much more satisfying to watch than some hipster with a crappy mustache and a mullet holding a microphone lecturing me for 6 hours. The simplicity, soul, and unfettered nature of golden era internet content is something that I genuinely miss. For over a decade now, the internet has been stolen from us by corporations and normies who should have never been on it. Not to mention the significant portion of it that's fake nowadays, whether it's AI-generated content or Indian bots on Twitter. There's a good reason the term dead internet theory is thrown around a lot these days. The internet that us older Gen Z and also millennials know, it's gone. And it seems it ain't never coming back, at least in full. We can all make our throwbacks and nostalgic revivals, but that free, wild west of the internet, I just don't see it coming back, to be honest. There's just too much corporatism and fake content nowadays, and short-form brain rot has become far too ubiquitous. While yes, a lot of us remember the old internet and rightfully call out how bad things have gotten, all this AI and brain rot is unfortunately turning profits, which is why the rich and powerful are going to continue pushing it regardless of how much anyone with an IQ above 70 detests it. The best I can say is that we can try our best to let the world know that we want our old way of online life back, and give the finger to the algorithm and draconian policies that have affected us. I don't care how much YouTube tells me to say unalived and make YouTube shorts, I'm not going to do it. As an artist, I'm going to continue doing what I love most, regardless of the tech bros pushing AI. Maybe if we continue pushing the pendulum back in the other direction, some level of improvement can be made, but in the meantime, there is years worth of ancient internet content available for us to remember and cherish. And thankfully, people do remember this era of the internet and want to bring it back. A friend of mine mentioned NeoCities, which allows people to create their own personalized websites, many of which exude this ancient internet aesthetic. I checked some of these out and man, I hope this kind of stuff takes off in the future. There are smaller YouTubers who still speak their mind and do videos just for fun. I mean, they're usually extremely small with less than 1,000 views. In fact, you're watching one of those right now. I've also noticed a lot of great artists and animators lately. There's clearly a lot of people who even now want to keep the spirit of the old internet alive. And I'm not gonna lie, seeing people remember how good it was 15 years ago and making the kind of content you'd see back then, it gives me a tiny sliver of hope that one day, just maybe, the darkest days of the internet will finally be behind us.